Okay, so Tuesday's video and then yesterday's assignment was all about parts of a group. So 2 fourths times 8. 2 fourths, the denominator of 4, tells me I need 4 groups. Ignore my circles. Okay, and then it tells me 2 fourths times 8. So I have 4 groups, and I need to take 8, and I need to put it into these 4 groups. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So I took 8 and I broke it into 4 different groups. You've done that before when we talked about division. Okay, but 2 fourths times 8 means I'm going to only focus in on 2 of the 4 groups. So I'm going to box in these 2. 2 fourths times 8 tells me 1, 2, 3, 4 is my answer. Okay. So if I have 1/8 times 16, that tells me I need 8 groups. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 groups. And I'm going to take and I'm going to divide 16 into 8 groups. Well, I know 16 divided by 8 is 2. I know that 8 times 2 is 16, which means each one of these is going to actually have 2 in it, right? And then I'm looking at 1/8 times 16, so I'm only looking at one of the models, so my answer is 2. Okay, so let's look at that and see what it looks like when you're actually doing the multiplication of it. So I wrote 2/3 times 4, but let's change it to be the same as what we just did. 2 fourths times 8. Okay, so the other day we also watched a video where I said you could do repeated addition. So 2/4 is the same as saying plus 2 fourths plus 2 fourths, and we're going to add it 8 times. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 2 fourths times 8 is the same as saying 2 fourths plus 2 fourths plus 2 fourths plus 2 fourths, and so on, right? And when we add fractions, we only ever add the numerator, right? The denominator always stays the same. So the easiest way to say this is 2 times 8 is 16, because 2 plus 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 2 is going to give you 16. And then our denominator always stays the same. That is an improper fraction. It's top heavy. So we have to divide it, or typo, right? Top in, bottom out, which means we're going to be dividing. So 16 divided by 4. 4 will go into 16 4 times. 4 times 4 is 16. Subtract. So my answer was 4. Which is what we got just a minute ago when we did it in groups. Okay? But not always are my problems going to be so simple. Okay? If your denominator can go into your whole number, then you can draw a picture. But what if I have 2/3 times 5? Okay? 3 doesn't go into 5 evenly. So here's where you would have to do your repeated addition. 2/3 5 times. Okay, but there's an easier way to do this, and I'm going to explain it to you. Okay, that's one way to do it, is to add 2/3 5 times. All right, just like with any multiplication problem. But what if your problem has 20 as your whole number? You don't want to have to add 20, add the fraction 20 different times. So here's what we do. We're going to place a 1 under the whole number, because this whole denominator is not going to change. What we're going to do is we're going to multiply across. Because 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, right? So 2 times 5 equals 10. And then we already established that the denominator doesn't change. So we multiply, that's why we multiply it by 1. 3 times 1 is 3. So every time it's going to give you an improper fraction. The only thing you have left to do is to Tybo, top in, bottom out. So 10 divided by 3. 3 will go into 10 3 times, because 3 times 3 is 9. 10 minus 9 is 1. So we're going to have a remainder. 1 becomes the numerator, and the denominator stays 3. So your answer would be 3 1/3. Okay, so multiplying fractions is really not that hard. It's a matter of understanding why you're doing the steps. So it's repeated addition, but that's why we put a 1 under the whole number, so that we can multiply the denominators times 1, because we need that denominator to stay the same, right? Because when we add, the denominator never changes. So let's look at some more. Okay, so I have 4/5 times 11. Well, I don't want to have to multiply 4/5 11 different times. I mean, add. I want to have to add 4/5 11 different times. So we're going to shortcut. We're going to put a 1 under the whole number, and we're going to multiply across. This is going to be the equivalent of adding 4 11 different times. So 4 times 11 is 44. And of course, we need our denominator to stay the same. So when you multiply it by 1, it stays 5. Okay, so we're going to write this. Okay, so we're going to start multiplying fractions by whole numbers. Step 1, place a 1 under the whole number. So 3/4 times 2, put a 1 under the whole number. Okay. Step 2, multiply across. Numerator times the numerator, denominator times denominator. So 3/4 times 2, and we had the 1 under it. We're going to multiply across. 3 times 2 and 4 times 1. 3 times 2 is 6. 4 times 1 is 4. Okay, because we're basically adding 3/4 plus 3/4, which gives you 6. And our denominator never changes, does it? That's why we're multiplying it by 1. Step 3, convert, which means divide. Top divided by bottom. Tybo. Top in, bottom out. Okay, so 6/4, we're going to just say 6 divided by 4. Remember, the first number goes on the inside, the second number goes on the outside. So if we're saying top in, bottom out, 6, this means divide, 6 divided by 4. 6 on the inside, 4 on the outside. Okay, 4 will go into 6 once. 1 times 4 is 4. Subtract 6 minus 4 and I get 2. 2 becomes the numerator, and 4 stays the denominator. It should be the same as what it was earlier. So 1 2/4, which we know reduces, and we always reduce. Even if it doesn't say reduce, you always reduce to simplest form. Okay, because the question usually says simplify. So we're going to divide top and bottom by 2. 1 1/2. Okay, so this problem up here that we did, 44/5, we're going to say top in, bottom out. 5 will go into 44 8 times, because 8 times 5 is 40. Subtract, and I have 4 left over. 4 becomes the numerator, 5 is the denominator. Okay. All right, so make sure you write this in your notes if you haven't already. Multiply fractions by whole numbers. Step 1, place a 1 under the whole number. Step 2, multiply across. Numerator times the numerator, denominator times the denominator. So 3 over 4 times 2, we put a 1 under the whole number, multiply across. 3 times 2 is 6, 4 times 1 is 4. And here's what that would look like if, and here's why. So 3/4 plus 3/4 equals 6/4. Okay, so I want you to understand why we put a 1 under the whole number, because we don't want that one, the denominator, to change. We don't ever change it. Okay, when you add fractions, you only add the numerators, right? So the denominator stays the same. So that's why we put the 1 under there. Step 3, convert, which means divide. Top divided by bottom, Tybo. Top in, bottom out. Top number goes on the inside of the house. Bottom number goes on the outside of the house. Okay. All right, let's do some practice problems. How about 3/5 times 7? We're going to put a 1 under the whole number. Okay, you should be writing these in your journal and working them out along with me. Okay, and then we're going to multiply across. 3 times 7 is 21. Multiply across. 5 times 1 is 5. So my fraction is 21 over 5. That is top heavy. So we're going to divide 21 divided by 5. 5 will go into 21 4 times. 4 times 5 is 20. Subtract, and we have 1 left over. This 1 left over becomes the numerator, and 5 is the denominator. So the answer is 4 1/5. Okay? Okay, you see, we can't do grouping with this one because 5 doesn't go in a 7. You can't make 5 groups and put 7 into it equally. That's why you have to do the mathematical part of it. Okay? 3/6 times 11. 1 under the whole number. Multiply across. 3 times 11 is 33. 6 times 1 is 6. So if I was adding 3/6 plus 3/6 plus 3/6 11 times, I would get 33 over 6. That's an improper fraction, so it's top heavy. 33 divided by 6. Well, 6 times 6 is 36, so that's too big. So we're going to have to say 6 times 5, which is 30. Subtract, and I get 3. 3 becomes the numerator, and 6 stays the denominator. Okay, but look at your problem. 3 over 6. 3, I know, goes into a 6. I know 3 times a number equals 6. So that means I'm going to have to reduce by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So my answer is 5 1/2. If you are not sure, if you can't look at that and know automatically, then you're going to do a T-chart. Because I know that some of us still struggle to look at these visually. So I know 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 6 is 6. And 2 times 3 is 6. So the biggest number they both have in common was 3. So that's why we divided the top number by 3 and the bottom number by 3 to get our answers. Okay? All right. Let's try this one. 2/4 times 5. Okay? Step 1, put a 1 under the whole number. Step 2, multiply across. And step 3, Tybo. Okay, so you put a 1 under the whole number. You multiply it across. 2 times 5 equals 10. 4 times 1 equals 4. And then I said Tybo. So 10 divided by 4. 4 will go into 10 2 times. 2 is my numerator. 4 is my denominator. So you could have gotten 2 2/4 if you already reduced it. Perfect. Two will go into 4, so I have to reduce by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Because I know 2 is half of 4. All right. Next problem. Do 3/5 times 2. Okay, 3/5 times 2. I want you to put 1 under the whole number, multiply across, and then make it, it's going to be improper, so fix it to a, a mixed number. Okay, 1 under the whole number, multiply across, 6, 5 times 1 is 5. Top in, bottom out, we're going to divide. 5 will go into 6 once. 1 times 5 is 5. 6 minus 5 is 1. 1 1/5. Okay? All right, we're going to do some more practice problems because I want to make sure that you totally understand this. What if I flipped it and I said 16 times 3/4? Are you going to do anything different when you multiply in a different way? Okay, so think about that for a second. What's the first step? Put a 1 under the whole number, right? So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put a 1 under the whole number. Second step was multiply across. So we're going to multiply across. 16 times 3 is 48. If you're not sure, come over into the side and do 16 times 3. Right? Okay, 16 times 3 is 48. 1 times 4 is 4. Okay? So, same as before. Improper fraction, it's top heavy, so we're going to divide. 48 divided by 4. 4 will go into this first 4 one time. 1 times 4 is 4. Subtract, and I get 0. Bring down my 8. 4 will go into 8 2 times. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 minus 8 is 0. So my answer is 12. Okay, so we couldn't do this one in a model because it was flipped, right? Or could we have? Okay, think about that for a second. Could you have done 16 times 3/4 in a model? Yes, you could have. Okay, it doesn't matter. It was flipped, but it still works. Okay, try this one. Either standard form or in a model. Okay, so if you did standard form, you will put a 1 under the whole number. 3 times 5 is 15. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 will go into 15 3 times. If you did the model, you did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there was 1 in each, because 5 divided by 5 is 1, and then we're looking at 3 of the models, so my answer was 3. So either way, I got the same answer. Okay. Okay, do 9 times 5, 6. Put a 1 under the whole number. multiply across, and then divide top in, bottom out. Okay, 1 under the whole number, multiply across, multiply across, and then divide. 45 divided by 6. Okay, so when you take 45 and you divide it by 6, you know that 6 will go into 45 7 times, which is 42. 5 minus 2 is 3. 3 becomes the numerator. 6 is the denominator. So 7 and 3, 6. Well, I know 3 is half of 6, so it's going to reduce to 7 and 1/2. Because we did that earlier. We're going to divide the top by 3 and the bottom by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. Remember, we always reduce. Okay, just real quick. Reduce. Find the GCF because this is not going away. Okay, we reduce. We find the GCF by T-charts. We list the factors. The greatest factor they have in common is the GCF, right? And we use that number, that means number, to divide. So if I have, we'll do a quick one, 6 over 8. Okay, 6 doesn't go in 8 evenly, so that means I need to find what the GCF is. So I'm going to list all the factors for 6. 1 times 6 and 2 times 3. And then I'm going to list the factors for 8. 1 times 8, 2 times 4. The biggest factor they both have in common is 2. I have a 1. Those are the same. 2 is the same. I have a 3 here, but no 3 on my 8 T-chart. I have a 6 here, but no 6 under the 8 T-chart. So the biggest factor, the greatest factor they have in common is the GCF, and that is 2. So we use that to divide. So we're going to divide the numerator by 2, divide the denominator by 2. And remember, if you do your T-charts right, 6 divided by 2, the answer is right next door. It would be 3. 8 divided by 2, the answer is next door. It's 4. 3/4. Okay? All right, that's just a quick review of reducing fractions because that's something y'all need to know. All right, so when we multiply fractions, we put a 1 under the whole number. We multiply across. Okay? 1 under the whole number. Multiply across, which is numerator times the numerator, denominator times the denominator, straight across. And then convert, which means we're going to divide. Top divided by bottom. Typo. Top in, bottom out. Okay? All right. So I'm going to have an assignment posted underneath this video. Do it the best you can. Message me on Clever or send me an email. Those of you that are virtual, if you have questions, those of you in class can just ask.